Perfect.
All right, everybody, what's going on? How y'all doing, man? Y'all welcome to today's edition of SWAC Talk. This is the show we cover the SWAC inside and out, and I'm your tour guide around the SWAC. See what else coming at you. And it is week 3, and we are gonna preview the games that take place this week. So we are 3 weeks into the season. This is the 3rd week. Well, technically, this is the 4th week because we had week 0, but this is the 4th week of the season, week 3, however you want to put it. Everybody's in action except for Alabama State. A lot of non-conference games, got a few FBS games, got a couple of D2 games. And actually, a couple of those D2 games are kind of interesting. And I did pick one D2 game as our game of the week, and that's Florida A&M at that's West Florida at Florida A&M. So, I think that's probably has the potential to be one of the better games of the week. So I picked that one as my game of the week. If you want to know what's going on with SWAC Talk, during the week, we have our weekly schedule that's on our socials. Facebook is SWAC Talk, Instagram SWAC Talk, Twitter SWAC Talk 76. Also, you can check out our channel, which you are on now watching. You can subscribe to the channel and hit that join button to become a member. We have a lot of great perks that we are rolling out. So if y'all become a member, you can do that. Also, like the video, share it, and leave your comments on week 3, man. Who you think gonna win some of the games, and any other things. So we're gonna go ahead and jump directly into this. There is a game on Thursday, and that's Bethune-Cookman at Miami. Miami is ranked number 22 in the country, and they are 2-0 right now. This game will be kicked off at about 6:30 on the ACC network. Not a lot to really say about this game. Bethune-Cookman is 1-1. They did pick up that win against Savannah State in a pretty solid fashion. Their passing game was really, really nice in that game. Against Memphis, the offense was non-existent. Defense did score 2 touchdowns, but not much else there for them. I anticipate a similar outing this time against Miami. I think the offense will be able to move the ball a bit, but Miami's been a high-scoring team this season so far. They've scored over 30 points in both of their games, so I think they'll continue that, and I think they'll beat Bethune-Cookman by a score of 55-10. I do think the offense will play better in this game than they did against Memphis. They're still kind of piecing together the team. They have a few guys who they, are waiting word on some waivers and stuff, so they're still kind of feeling their way around. But I think they pick up. I think they drop this one against Miami. Moving on to Saturday's games, we have Grambling hosting Florida Memorial. Florida Memorial is 1-1, and they played in a shootout. I think they lost their first game like 50-47, and then they beat Edward Waters by a couple of touchdowns, and they scored like 38 points in that game. So this offense can score points, but Grambling should definitely have the edge in this game. I think this is a good game for their defense to kind of get on track. They haven't really had a solid defensive game yet, losing to Hampton and losing to LSU, allowing 200-yard rushers against Hampton. That's something that has to be cleaned up. The offense has looked good in spurts. The pass game looked good against Hampton. The run game, for what it's worth, looked pretty good against LSU. So I think this will be the week that they kind of put some things together and they pick up a win. I think they can probably name their score. They should have the size advantage. They should have the depth advantage. I say 63-7. I think Grambling offense will be able to move the ball at will, and I think that defense will finally get some big plays that they're looking for. The first game that we have that really, is intriguing, and it on paper it shouldn't be, and before the season it really wasn't. But that's Miles College at UAPB. That's a 4 o'clock kick on the UAPB Sports Network. This game is really interesting to me because Miles defeated Alabama State last week. Um, they got over that hump the last couple of years. They've been, knocking on the door and come up short, but this year they did it. And I want to see how they play the following week, coming off of a big win like that. They're back on the road at UAPB, who's looking better than an 0-2 team. I mean, they're still, they still have some. They're still a work in progress, but they're starting to find some pieces to their team. Their offense is moving the ball fairly well. They run the ball pretty decently. The passing game has been kind of up and down, but they're making strides. And defensively, considering they played an FBS team and gave up 42 points, they played pretty solidly against Tennessee State last week and kept themselves in that game, losing that game late, 24-14. So I'm liking the direction Pablo's going. One guy I really like on that team is Jonas Davis, the running back. He's averaging 124 yards on the season with one touchdown. He's averaging 6.1 yards per carry. So he's definitely having a big time season so far for them. The quarterback position has been kind of up and down right now. Jalen Macon has got the bulk of the snaps, but he is 25 of 30 on the season for 250 yards. So he's completing a really great percentage, 83%. He has one touchdown, no interceptions. But Mekhi Higgins also has played. He played in the first game, and he was 10 of 21 with no touchdowns and one interception and 109 yards. So they still have to figure out that guy. The receivers have been up and down. They dropped a lot of passes against Tulsa, and they still up and down trying to find that guy. Defensively, I think they're playing. They're playing probably as well as you can. Rico Dozier is a guy to look out for. He leads the team in tackles. So they have, like I said, they're starting to put some things together, but they still have some work to do. Miles is a team that's pretty, they're pretty balanced. They run the ball for about 152 yards a game, and they throw it for 217. And the quarterback right now has 5 touchdowns on the season with only 1 interception. So they're pretty, they're pretty efficient. They're moving the ball pretty well. They're converting 51% on third downs, and that's including against an Alabama State defense that's really, really tough. So they're really solid there. The defense has 6 sacks in 2 games, so they're making some plays. They get it done running the ball, through committee. But Edwin Kleinpeter is the quarterback, and he's making a lot of things happen for them. And they just been finding ways to win these games, and beating Alabama State made this game probably more interesting to me than it probably should have been. But I still, I think Miles is hot right now. That last season they were 1-9, and they're putting that behind them. And so I think they have a really good chance in this game because I think Pablo still is a work in progress. This game will be tougher than a lot of people think, and that's why I actually have Miles pulling off the upset. I don't like to pick against a SWAC team in a D2 game, but I think Miles is going to upset Pine Bluff at home 20-17. But I think Pine does have a good chance of winning this game, but I'm leaning toward Miles. I think they just have a little bit more momentum, and they've been playing really good football at this point. And that brings us to our actual game of the week, and that's Florida A&M taking on the University of West Florida. That's a 5 o'clock kickoff on HBCU Go. So definitely catch that game and check it out. FAMU's 1-1. They won the Orange Blossom Classic. They lost to USF by 14, but they're playing very good defense. They were in that game against South Florida. They just came up short late. And obviously, they had a big first quarter against Jackson State, which kind of propelled them to that win. Quarterback play has been up and down, surprisingly. Jeremy Musa right now is not, he's not really consistent right now. He's completing like 55% of his passes, 33 or 65. He has 524 yards, but he has 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. And that really hurts you, the lack of consistency, because the weapons are there. The running game has been pretty solid. They have really a 3-headed monster, but Dean, Yant, and Jennings are mainly the primary guys to run the ball. But Kelvin Dean has been a guy that got some carries as well. They're actually they're gaining a pretty solid amount of yards, but they're not really an explosive type of running team. They kind of ground and pound a little bit, and then air it out to guys like Sheree and Riley and Dixon. Those are the 3 guys who are tops right now on the team in receiving. Also, the special teams is great. Sheree's a great punt returner. Riley has a kickoff return for a touchdown, and his defense is nasty, led by Isaiah Major, who has 17 tackles on the season, and Anthony Dunn Jr. Right behind him with 16. Dunn leads the team in tackles for loss with 4.5, and he also leads the team with 2.5 sacks. So they have those guys that can make plays on defense. The offense is very capable. They haven't hit that stride yet. Obviously, it's only week 3, but they've had their moments, but then they've also had some moments where they're not connecting on passes. But this is a team that wins on third downs on offense and defense, converting 41% on third down and only giving up 30% on third downs as a defense. So that they win third downs a lot. They've turned the ball over 5 times so far, which is kind of an issue, but they can fix that. And they have 10 sacks already as a defense. So getting pressure on the quarterback is definitely something they do well with their front 4. With the linebackers kind of filling in as needed. They don't really send the house a lot. So, they kind of get it done with their front 4, which is very, very good. West Florida is a team coming in averaging 35 points per game. They've won both of their games by the score of 35-3. So they're coming in, really hot, undefeated, 2-0. This is a program that won the national championship in D2 in 2019. They're still a very tough team. They run the ball for average 171 yards per game. The offense is averaging 295 through the air, so they can get it done on the ground and in the air. They have thrown 2 interceptions, but they have 5 touchdowns. Defensively, obviously, they haven't allowed a touchdown yet. They're not allowing much offensively. They're not allowing that much defensively. Only allowing opponents to gain 103 yards per game. So they're not. 103 yards per game on the ground and 151 per game total defense. So they're not giving up much. Opponents averaging 2.9 yards per play. So their defense is really solid. Offense averaging 7.2 yards per play. They're only allowing 32% on third downs and completing 54%. And they have 11 sacks. So these teams, honestly, they kind of mirror a little bit. They both kind of have a running game by committee. West Florida has 3 guys with over 50 yards rushing. FAMU has 3 guys with nearly 40 plus yards rushing. The quarterback play is a little bit better. Well, I won't say better, but the numbers for the quarterback at West Florida are better. Pee Wee Jarrett is the quarterback. He's 40 or 50 for 559 yards. He has 5 touchdowns and 1 interception, completing 80% of his passes with a long of 77. So they can air the ball out. John Giles is their leading receiver. He has 7 catches for 177 yards and 3 touchdowns already in this season. He's averaging 25 yards per catch. So definitely a guy they want to get the ball to. Will Breland is their leading tackler, along with John McMullen. They both had 10 tackles on the season. McMullen has 6.5 tackles for loss and 5 sacks already. So he's definitely a guy that you want to know where he's at. He definitely makes things happen on the defensive line. So this is a game, man. I think a lot of people may not really anticipate it being a tough game for FAMU. If you know West Florida, then you know that this team is very capable of coming in the brag and winning. But I think FAMU's defense is strong enough to really give West Florida fits. I think the offense will be able to do what they've been doing. Put together a drive here, put together a drive to special teams, a chip in and help get that hidden yardage. And I like FAMU to win this game by 20, a score 28-18. I think if FAMU's defense can slow down that passing attack really, which they can do because they have a really good secondary and a really solid pass rush. I think they can give West Florida a lot of problems, and I think FAMU's running game, if it can get going, it can help their passing game by giving Musa opportunities to throw when he's comfortable. So if they can just cut down, the mistakes and be consistent with passing the ball and running it like they've been doing the last 2 weeks, then they should be fine in this game. But West Florida's going to put up a fight. This won't be easy. Like I said, 28-18, and that's my game of the week. I'm really that's a game I've been looking forward to all season. So it's good to finally have it here, and finally get to see what's what with these Argonauts of West Florida. And then that takes us to our next game, which is McNeese State at Alcorn. That's a 6 p.m. kickoff. Both of these teams come in at 0-2, and they have both been pretty soundly beaten. McNeese lost to Tarleton State 52-34 in their first game, and Florida beat them 49-7 last week. So they scored some points in that FCS game, but then they turn around and only scored 7 in an FBS game, and they've given up a lot of points on defense. Obviously 52 and 49, so they've given up a lot of points, and they've had some issues scoring points consistently. McNeese as a program has been up and down these last few years. It's nowhere near the McNeese that was roaming around for years. Alcorn did beat them last season, so they have that under their belt. This is a team that's struggling to run the ball. They only run the ball for 62.5 yards per game, and they're struggling with the pass game, 127 yards through the air. So not a lot of offense for this team, 190 yards per game, and averaging 3.2 yards per play. They have yet to throw a touchdown pass. They do have 4 rushing touchdowns, but their defense is getting gashed on the ground, over 260 yards per game allowed and 5.9 yards per play. So if you're Alcorn, you're definitely licking your chops for that. The pass defense is just as bad. They're allowing 288 yards through the air. So they have definitely been eaten up in these 2 games. So if you're looking for a game for your offense to get on track, if you're Alcorn, this should be the game. You got a big game next week against Prairie View to start conference play. But this is a game that you should be in really good shape. This offense is bad for McNeese. They're completing 20% on third downs, really struggling in that aspect, and they've given up 9 sacks. And if you remember last year, Alcorn sacked the quarterback from McNeese, quarterbacks like 10 times last year. That's no exaggeration. This defense is allowing 72% on third down. So if there's going to be a game where you get your offense going, this has to be it. They don't have, like I said, they don't have anybody of note really doing much. D'Angelo Durham is their leading rusher. He has 90 yards on the season and 1 touchdown. The quarterback play, like I said, has not been good. Nate Glantz is the starting quarterback. He's 21 of 48 for 228 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He has completed 43% of his passes. His leading receiver is Jihad Marks with 6 catches for 61 yards, no touchdowns. Defensively, Micah Davey has 25 tackles on the season. They only have 3 tackles for loss in 2 games, so they're not even getting any penetration on the run game. They're not getting any sacks. They only have 1 sack on the season. They've allowed 15 tackles for loss and 9 sacks, so their offensive line is struggling. Like I said, if you're Alcorn, you have to be. You don't want to take a team lightly. Let me say that. Even saying all these numbers and everything, you don't want to take this team lightly, because you're really not in a position to do that if you're Alcorn, because your offense is only averaging 12 points per game. Your running game is as advertised, 163 yards per game. You know what you got there. The passing game on offense is where the problem is. 64 yards per game. They've only completed 12 passes on the season, 12 or 32. So they've really struggled to pass the ball, and they haven't thrown it much. They've ran the ball twice as much as they've thrown it. So they're obviously not comfortable throwing the ball this season, but you have to be able to do that to win games. And like I said, if there's any defense on your schedule right now that will give you the opportunity for that, it's this game. Now, I'm not saying you need to get outside of what you're doing, throw the ball 3 times more than you run it, but I do think if your quarterbacks are gonna get right, then this is the game that they're gonna get right in. This defense has 4 interceptions already this season, so they're definitely turning teams over. Given the way they lost to Stephen F. Austin last week, the run defense was pretty solid. They did give us some big plays through the air, but this offense has to get going. Only converting 29% on third downs. The defense does have 6 sacks, so the pass rush is still there. I think Alcorn's defense is definitely gonna be the key in this game. You don't want to keep trotting them out there and wearing them out, but the offense, until the offense gets going, I think this defense is more than enough. Right now, Tyler Macon is the leading rusher on the team with 124 yards. Jarvion Howard has 110. They both have a touchdown. Macon's averaging 12.4 yards per carry. Like I said, the pass game is just not there right now. Aaron Allen is 10 of 19 to lead the team, 52%, 97 yards passing, no touchdowns, no interceptions. And Malik Rogers leads the team with 2 catches for 54 yards. Monterio Hunt, who should be a top target, he has 1 catch for 27 yards. And that defense led by Terrence Ellis with 20 tackles is going to continue to put in work. So I picked Alcorn to win this game, but I think it's going to be a low-scoring game because I don't really think either offense is that good, honestly, right now. Alcorn can probably win this game running the ball and hitting the passes that they need to hit, because I think Alcorn's defense can really slow down McNeese. So I got Alcorn winning this game by a score of 17-10. This is going to be a slugfest. I think both teams have something to prove. Both teams want to try to get a victory because this is both teams. Both teams, I think, last non-conference game. So, McNeese, they have another non-conference game next week against Eastern Illinois, but Alcorn jumps into conference play next week. So you want to be able to have some momentum going into conference play. So I think Alcorn has a lot to prove, and I think they're going to come out and get it done there. The next game we have is Prairie View at SMU. Prairie View runs the ball very well. We already know that. They ran the ball for over 300 yards last week against Abilene Christian, but they lost like 45-16 or something like that. So they can move the ball on the ground. I think they'll be able to have some success running the ball with Conley, Antoine, and Johnson, that 3-headed monster at quarterback and running back. But I think SMU names their score here, so I got them by a score of 48-14. Our other FBS game that we have in the state of Texas, and we have 3 FBS games in the state of Texas, and that is Texas Southern at Rice. The less you say about TSU game last week, the better. Andrew Body didn't play the offense, didn't really do much. They lost the game 71-3 to Toledo. This week they're playing a Rice team who's coming off of a big victory over Houston, where they scored over 40 points. They're 1-1. I think I've heard that they were just resting Andrew Body, getting ready for conference play. I don't know if he plays here or not, but if he does play here, I think that generates them at least 3 touchdowns. So I'm operating on an assumption that he plays, and I got Rice by a score of 45-20. I think that's a big game for TSU next week. So bigger fish to fry, but you want to come out and play better than you did last week. That's just a given. The next game we have is Mississippi Valley at Delta State. That's also a 6 p.m. kickoff. Valley's 0-1. They lost to Central State. They had opportunities to really win that game and be solid, and pick up a win, but they kind of did what Valley do sometimes, and they kind of let it slip out their hands. They have to find a way to be competitive in this game. I've seen point spreads in this game, like Delta State by 25. So Delta State's a really good team, even for I hate to say it like that. Delta State's a good team. I'm not gonna say for a D2 team. Delta State's a good team, and Valley is not right now, and they haven't been for a while. And Delta State has not lost to Valley. They thumped them in Itabena last year. I'm not going to go too deep into this game. I will say that Delta State had a big fight in their game last week against Chowan, which they won in blowout fashion. They won the game 42-18. That game was actually stopped because they had a big fight in that game. 6 players have been suspended from that altercation. There's no name of any, there's no name right now of any Delta State players who are going to be out. But depending on who's out and who's not, that could be a very interesting situation. Patrick Shegog is the quarterback. He's been there a while, and he's really putting up good numbers. So I think Delta State wins this game. I think they pick up a victory in this game by a score of 37-17. Valley has to find some positivity. This week I don't think is their week, but they have to find some positivity and find a way to make some things happen. The next game we have is Southern versus Alabama A&M. This is the only conference game on the schedule, and yes, this is a conference game for Southern. Southern has had two straight non-conference games against SWAC schools, but this is an actual conference game. So they open up conference play after a really rough 2 games to start the season, 0-2, averaging 12 points a game. Defense has been hit or miss. They were solid against Alabama State. At times they were solid against Jackson State, but they gave up the big play quite often and really gave up a lot of yards on the ground. The passing game is again up and down. They had a better game passing last week than they did in the first game, but they still turn the ball over too much. They're still struggling to put together consistent drives, and they cannot run the football at all this season. So Southern has to find a way to make the run game happen, and they have to find a way to stop turning the ball over, because those 2 things have really killed this team. And if you want to get back on track, which this is the week to do it, because you have a bye week next week, and this is your first conference game. If you want to beat Alabama A&M, then you have to take care of the football and you have to run the ball. Everything else kind of goes hand in hand. The run defense has to be better if you're Southern, because you're facing a team in Alabama A&M who ran the ball really well last week and the week before. And we'll talk about the Bulldogs in a second. they're playing good football right now. But if you're looking at Southern from their side, they have to find a way to cut out the foolish mistakes, cut out the poor tackling at times or the bad alignments or whatever whatever they say the issue is. They need to find a way to fix that and actually fix it, not just say you fixed it. But they're facing a tough task. Alabama A&M was 1-1. They looked pretty. They looked pretty competitive against Vanderbilt, and against Lane. They really exploded offensively for 51 points. Had a punt return for a touchdown. They ran the ball extremely well in that game, and they're running the ball for 187 yards per game this season, averaging 5.6 yards per carry. So they are running well. The passing game is still a work in progress, averaging 139 yards per game. They have 2 interceptions and 3 touchdowns. The defense has 5 interceptions. So if you're a Bulldog right now, you're licking your chops looking at a team in Southern who's thrown 4 interceptions in 2 games. So Southern presenting opportunities for you to take the ball away from them is there. It's been there all season, and if you're A&M, then you want it to still be there. Your run defense has not been that good. 187 yards allowed and 5.4 yards per carry. So that if there's anything that you wanna fix is that you haven't really played well on third down on defense, but the third down offense is really good at 48%. You have 8 sacks on this. You have 3 sacks on the season and have allowed 4. So the Bulldogs are pretty. They're pretty solid at protecting the quarterback right now. Ryan Morrow had a huge game against Lane, and right now he has 217 yards on the ground this season, averaging 9.4 yards per carry. He has 3 touchdowns. So, and he was newcomer of the week in the SWAC, I believe. Our offensive player of the week. I'm sorry, I had to look it up to get it right. But he had a really, really good week last week. And if you want to make plays against a team who has given up some big plays, this is your opportunity. Right now, I think that this game, man, this is a big game. I didn't want to pick it for game of the week because I picked Southern last week for the game of the week, and I kind of wanted to not pick them again, especially at 0-2 against a 1-1 team who hasn't played an FCS opponent yet. But this is the first SWAC game of the season for both teams, so there's a lot on the line. Ryan Morrow was the offensive player of the week, so he's had a great week. Terrell Gardner is the special teams player of the week for Alabama A&M, honored by the SWAC. So they had a really good week last week. I picked Southern to win 1 game this season on the show. I picked them to lose last week. I'm picking Southern to win this game by 1 point. Southern has scored more points each week. They scored 10 the first game, 14 the second game. I think they can get to 20. If they can get to 20, I think the defense, even allowing some plays here and there, can do enough, provided that the offense doesn't put them in short fields. I got Southern by a score 20-19, man. That's an odd score, but this is an odd game. If you're Southern, you need this game. A&M needs it too. Manum's barking, but Southern needs this game for a multitude of reasons. If they don't get it, they have a bye week, so it's going to be hell on earth on social media for Southern if you lose this game on Saturday and you have 2 weeks before your next game. So it's very important that Southern finds a way to win this game. If you're Southern, if you're Alabama A&M, you got every right to come into this game confident. And like I said, a 1 point margin basically means that this game is even. I really, honestly, you kind of give Southern the edge for being at home. That's it, So not a lot there. So that takes us to our final game of the week, and that's Jackson State at Texas State. Another FBS game. Not gonna go super deep into this game, but Texas State they beat Baylor pretty soundly in week 1. They lost a close game. They lost a close game to UTSA last week. So they have an opportunity to make some. Their offense is pretty solid under a new coach. Passing the ball really well. Running game is not been that great. They've given up a lot of yards through the air. Over 315 yards through the air. 133 on the ground. TJ Finley is their quarterback. He's been pretty solid. Like I said, the running game it has really not gotten on track yet. Defensively, Brian Holloway is probably one of the guys to look out for. Caleb Coleman also are guys to look out for. Jackson State, this is a good opportunity for them to come out and make some things happen. Last week, I thought they looked good in spurts. I didn't, I think they missed some opportunities, but I also think they were able to hit some very, very explosive plays. If you can do that, you don't want to lean on explosive plays so much. But if you can hit those kind of plays, then that's always good. Otherwise, being able to move the ball on the ground, you have a really solid run game. That can help you in a game like this. You have to be mindful that they're going to bring pressure on your quarterback. Jason Brown was able to escape the pocket a few times against Southern, which definitely helped open some things up, because when you have to be aware of a quarterback running the ball, even if they're not necessarily a runner, if you have to account for that, then that definitely makes things tougher for you as a defense. So I think Jackson State should come out in this game and just play free. You get back in the SWAC play next week. You have nothing to lose in this game. So come out, play free. Your defense has been pretty good. They're opportunistic. If you could get a turnover or two, you can find yourself in a pretty good position later in the game. But right now, I think Texas State, they're playing with some pretty solid momentum. Like I said, they 1-1, but they had a big win on the road against Baylor to open the season. I like Texas State 35-21. I think JSU is going to be very competitive. And I think this team is rounding the corner. I don't think you'll see very much of that first quarter FAMU Jackson State anymore this season. Will they drop a game here and there? Possibly. But I don't think this team is going to be a bad team by no means. So I think they're going to really give Texas State a fight. If they find themselves in position later in the game, then maybe they can make their move. But I'm going with Texas State right now, and that's gonna do it for our Week 3 preview. We'll be back tomorrow with SWAC Smoke live, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern, and Sunday we have our Week 3 recap. We probably won't have another live Saturday show until probably next week, but right now we will be back on Sunday with SWAC Talk to recap all the Week 3 action. So with that being said, man, I'm C. Wells, your tour guide around the SWAC, signing out, and we'll catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.